The snow had been falling since sunset, thick and silent, burying the small rented house at the edge of the city in a white loneliness that felt heavier than the cold itself. Christmas lights flickered faintly in distant windows, laughter echoed from houses that still had families gathered inside, and somewhere far away a church bell rang midnight. Inside that quiet house, a single father sat alone at a small wooden table, staring at a half-burnt candle and an unopened gift meant for a child who would never come home again. This was not the Christmas he had imagined. This was the Christmas that reminded him how empty the world could feel when love leaves too early. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us hope can arrive when we least expect it, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. His name was Daniel Carter, once an ordinary man with ordinary dreams. He had never imagined that his life would shrink down to a single room filled with memories that hurt more than they healed. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. He worked long hours, learned how to braid hair, learned how to smile through exhaustion, learned how to pretend he was strong. Then, just months before this Christmas, fate struck again. A drunk driver, a rain-soaked road, a phone call no parent should ever receive. Since then, the house had felt too big, too quiet, too cruel. Decorations stayed in boxes, music stayed off. Christmas became just another day to survive. Daniel had still set the table that night, out of habit more than hope. 2 plates, 2 cups, one for him, one for a memory. He cooked a simple meal, ate only a few bites, and let the rest grow cold. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and relentless, as if the world was trying to cover its own scars. He wrapped himself in an old sweater and sat near the window, watching shadows move across the street. He told himself that loneliness was something he deserved for still breathing when the people he loved most could not. At the same time, across the city in a glass tower glowing against the winter sky, a woman stood alone in an office that overlooked everything yet felt just as empty. Her name was Eleanor Hayes, the CEO of a powerful technology firm, known in boardrooms for her sharp mind and unbreakable composure. She had wealth, influence, and a reputation that made people lower their voices when she entered a room. But on that Christmas night, none of it mattered. Her office was silent, her phone untouched, her calendar empty. No family dinner awaited her, no warm laughter. Success had cost her more than she had realized, and tonight the bill came due. Eleanor had grown up believing that vulnerability was weakness. She had climbed her way to the top by never letting anyone see her fear, her grief, or her longing for connection. Yet that night, standing by the window as snow fell over the city, something inside her cracked. She remembered the man she had once known differently, not as an employee or subordinate, but as a quiet, hard-working soul who never complained and always left early to be with his child. Daniel Carter. Months earlier, she had approved his resignation without question, assuming it was another case of someone unable to handle pressure. Only later did she learn the truth about his loss. Impulse took over where logic failed. Eleanor put on her coat, left the tower behind, and drove through the empty streets with no plan except the sudden, overwhelming need to not be alone anymore. The city felt unreal at that hour, wrapped in snow and silence, like a paused moment waiting to be rewritten. Back in his house, Daniel had just blown out the candle when a knock broke the stillness. It was soft at first, then firmer, unmistakably real. His heart raced, fear and confusion mixing together. No one visited him anymore, especially not at midnight. On Christmas, he opened the door slowly, the cold air rushing in along with the presence he did not expect. Eleanor stood there, snow dusting her dark coat, her breath visible in the frozen air, her expression stripped of all corporate armor. She looked smaller somehow, more human, more fragile. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Daniel led her inside without thinking, as if some part of him understood that this moment mattered. The house, modest and worn, felt warmer with another soul inside it. Eleanor removed her coat, her eyes taking in the simplicity, the faded photos on the wall, the small Christmas tree that stood undecorated in the corner. She felt something tighten in her chest, a mixture of guilt and tenderness she was not used to feeling. They sat across from each other at the same small table, the silence no longer empty but heavy with things unsaid. Time passed differently then. Outside, snow continued to fall, sealing them off from the rest of the world. Daniel felt something shift inside him, a faint stirring he thought had died with his daughter. Eleanor felt the wall she had built over decades begin to weaken, brick by brick. She had not come with answers or promises, she had come because she could not bear another Christmas defined by absence. And Daniel, though still drowning in grief, felt less alone than he had in months. The pain did not disappear, but it loosened its grip, just enough to allow air back into his lungs. As the night deepened, memories surfaced. Daniel thought about the man he used to be, the father who laughed easily, the husband who believed life was fair. Eleanor thought about the girl she once was, who dreamed of love before choosing ambition instead. Two broken paths crossed in a quiet house on a forgotten street, and neither of them realized yet how much this meeting would change everything. The hours passed gently, without urgency. The snowstorm outside turned the world into a blank page. Inside, something new was being written, not a romance born of fantasy, but a connection forged in shared loss and unexpected understanding. Eleanor saw in Daniel a strength that had nothing to do with power. Daniel saw in Eleanor a loneliness that money could not touch. When dawn finally approached, pale light filtering through the curtains, both felt a strange reluctance to let the moment end. Christmas had come and gone, but it no longer felt like a wound. It felt like a turning point. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor returned often, not as a CEO, not as a savior, but as a woman learning how to be present. She helped Daniel find stability, not through charity but through opportunity, offering him meaningful work that respected his limits and his grief. Daniel, in turn, reminded her how to slow down, how to sit in silence without fear, how to feel without apologizing. Healing did not happen all at once. There were days when Daniel could not get out of bed, nights when Eleanor questioned everything she thought she knew about herself. But they stayed, they listened, they allowed pain to exist without trying to erase it. The house slowly changed, photos were rearranged, the tree was decorated the next year, not with forced cheer, but with quiet respect for what had been lost and what remained. Laughter returned, tentative at first, then real. Christmas no longer meant being alone. It meant remembering and continuing. Years later, Daniel would look back on that midnight knock as the moment his life stopped shrinking and started expanding again. Eleanor would look back on it as the night she finally chose connection over control. Two lives, once defined by absence, became defined by presence. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that hope can arrive even on the coldest night, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who might need them most. Before this story ends, leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from and what this story made you feel. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a life is a single knock on the door, and the courage to open it.